Why do I think you should garden? Look at that lettuce. This is just in a pot. Those are my purple crown. This one's smaller because it's like needs to be watered, but that is crazy. That is beautiful. Look at it. It's like so big. This is Mayan Jaguar and it looks so delicious. Welcome to Scofield Farm. I'm in the garden. It's been a lot of rain. Finally an absolutely beautiful day. And I want to show you right before I get started in the garden, I want you to see some of the lemons that I harvested today from our Meyer lemon tree that is potted. It's ready early. Usually they're not ready till more like January, I guess it is January, but more like February or even early March, but they're ready and so I'm picking some. The lemons are looking beautiful and they are the nice orangey color. I already pulled one off. They smell so fragrant. I wish I could have a smell-o-meter on the camera. Now see how they are, they're still a little bit firm, honestly. You want them to pull off pretty easily. Like that one just kind of popped off. If they have a lot of resistance, they're not quite ready. Now I'm not quite ready to like pick all of them, but I'm gonna pick a handful of them. I like to have fresh lemons in the fridge. And I like to also juice them and put them in the freezer in ice cube trays. That one came super easy, so that one was ready. That one's not quite ready. See the tug? Not quite. That one came off super easy. That one's ready. Just 5 right now, but this will be a good start to our little harvest. I think this tree will have given us 50 lemons. It's not that big. It is our best harvest from this tree so far. I'm going to share with you today why I think you should consider growing a garden. And growing a garden does not have to be food like mine. It can be flowers, it can be fruit trees, it can be ornamental bushes and plants, it can be native species, it can be so many different things. And I think there's so many benefits that I'd love to give you my ideas of why I think you should consider growing a garden if you've never grown a garden. So I am going to cut the dead peppers out of this garden. I just have a couple wintry chores to do and I don't like to be out in the cold and the wet, so I wait till it's a nice day like today. Yes, Sam, my rooster wants some attention. Sam, did you have something to say? Is there something that you wanted to say? The garden definitely has stuff to be cleaned up, and you know, that's okay. I knew that. I knew I wasn't overwintering these. I just have to take things a little bit at a time. So this is something I'm gonna get done today just because I like to keep on top of the garden. Some of these actually have green at the bottom, but I don't think they're gonna come back, so I'm just cutting them down. This very little cabbage, it needs maybe some nitrogen to help it grow a little bit. Super, super small for overwintering. See how little it is? It's actually really pretty. It's actually very pretty, but it's very small. I should feed this either with like fish emulsion or maybe even some blood meal. One of the benefits of gardening for me is even in the pruning. I feel like it's therapeutic. I feel like it helps me clear my mind. It's a great form of exercise. And even though sometimes I avoid going to clean up my garden, once I get out in the garden, I actually really enjoy it. It's like a great form of therapy. Even pulling little weeds, it's good for my mind. I know I talk a lot about gardening being my therapy, but sometimes cutting back the garden that froze and making room for new things to grow feels like clearing the clutter from my mind. So these cabbages, I think, definitely need some sort of feeding. They are pretty small, but this is funny over here. The chard looks great. The California poppies, they're about to bloom, I bet. This this is a cauliflower, and it's so small and it looks like it's not very compact, so it's gonna probably bolt, which is hilarious. Oh well, sometimes it happens. I think I just need to feed all these a little more nitrogen. But the garlic looks really, really good. There's my giant mess of dead pepper plants. I think maybe I should just have someone take them to the compost. I don't think this is harboring any pests or anything at this point. It's just like dead and woody. So, why should you grow a garden? There's a lot of reasons why people garden, and only one of them is because of the food. Sure, it's awesome to pick lemons from lemon trees. These are going to be snap peas that produce a lot of peas for us once they get big enough and they get a little bit of warmth. There is lettuce over there. We had tons of peppers and tomatoes in our summer garden. But that's not the only reason I grow a garden, and I don't think it's the only reason that you should consider growing a garden either. Growing a garden can be super wonderful therapy. And I've said a lot of times, you know, the hashtag gardening is my therapy, and it's so true. Getting outside when it is sunny, even if it's rainy, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not good at going outside when it's rainy. Getting outside and getting endorphins from the sunshine and getting, you know, our hands in the dirt, in the soil is so good for us as humans. For me, garden therapy has been the reason I come back to gardening all the time. I love the food. I'm excited about food. To be honest with you, sometimes the harvest is much more intimidating than the planting. I don't know if anyone else has that experience, but I get very overwhelmed with all the work of, you know, getting the wonderful food that comes off of here and then figuring out how to preserve it or how to prepare it in our kitchen. That can be daunting and tiring, where there's all the excitement of starting seeds and the possibility of new life and potential that somehow is a little more motivating sometimes. I mean, gardening definitely can be a lot of work. There's a lot of pruning and cleaning up. Just like right here in my asparagus, I'm gonna clean up, I'm gonna cut them back. And so when it's not all the rewards of food, having other reasons why you garden is super beneficial. It helps you keep going, it helps you stay motivated, and for me, being outside in the sunshine or even in the overcast weather is definitely so invigorating and peaceful to my soul that I feel like it's a huge why of gardening and choosing this as something that I spend my time on. I think a lot of people could use more time outside. I think a lot of people could use something that is quiet, that is still, that is almost monotonous to work out feelings, emotions, thoughts. There's so much in our life that is flashing screens at us and busy and demanding. To have something where it's just the birds singing, it is the roosters crowing, it is watching the worms and the centipedes and the pill bugs crawling. There's something about it that I feel like as humans, we were created to be in a garden. We were created to be outdoors in nature, and that it really does something deep inside our soul, in our mind, in our ability to process, that gardening is so much more than just growing food. I've heard people say that gardeners like the most optimistic people because they're always looking towards the future. They're planning for a time to come. They have hopes and plans and excitement about the next season. And I like that gardening keeps me grounded in staying seasonal. I know that no one season lasts forever. There is sowing, there is harvesting, there is pruning and weeding, and all of it works together. All of it has purpose. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the food. I love the food of gardening. I have a whole bed, well, half a bed full of kale. And we will eat all this kale, we'll enjoy this kale. But if I was doing it for the kale alone, I think I might quit. Gardening is also great exercise. I practice my squats all the time, just working in the garden, because I don't want to kneel on the wood chips in the paths. Gardening is get your heart rate up, get you breathing, it gets you focused. It's really overall really great for you. But as I said, if I only garden for the food, I would be so disappointed when things like this happened to my beets. Let me show you this. I planted these beets last spring. This is almost a year ago, and you can see how small they are. If my heart was set on only gardening for those beets, I would be so utterly disappointed when you feel down there and they're like teeny tiny around. Gardening can't only be for the produce that it produces. Hopes of these radishes, sure, that keeps me coming out here. It keeps me coming outside and checking their progress and looking and planting more. And I really hope I get a better radish harvest than last year. But even if I don't, I benefited from being outdoors, from getting my hands in the dirt, from getting my heart rate going, from squatting and strengthening those muscles. There's so many ways to benefit from the garden that make the food almost like the cherry on top. It's almost like the extra blessing of growing our own food is the food, because all the other parts of it are so beneficial as well. With food prices skyrocketing, it's definitely worth it for the food. It's definitely nice to be able to harvest things out of the backyard, but it's so much more. I mean, I'm not complaining about that beautiful bed of winter produce. It is such a blessing. Planting celery, this is part of the fun of gardening, is putting something that has root-bound roots in the ground, excited about the possibilities to come. Why do I think you should garden? I think you should garden because I think that you might fall in love with it, whether you realize it or not. It doesn't have to be difficult, doesn't have to be raised beds like mine. It can be containers like my lemons are in and some of my different citrus trees. It could be in the ground like my potato patch is. It can be so many different ways, but I think it's something worth giving a go in 2024. If you've never grown a garden, I think this is the year that you should consider it. And the best way to get started, is to find what you love and to plan to grow what you love, even if it's just one pot of tomatoes, even if it's just fresh parsley. It's worth it. It's worth it because I think it feeds your family, but it also feeds your soul. Even the pulling weeds. Pulling weeds is something that is therapeutic. Now maybe you failed in the past at gardening. That's okay. The nice thing is some things in gardening are annuals, which means you get a new shot every single year. Some things are perennials, which means they'll come back over and over again. Other things like fruit trees, they take a long time investment, but they often give the biggest rewards. Cabbage has been one of those things for me that's given me mixed results. Some years it does amazing, other years they bolt before I get a harvest. And I think that makes the years that it does well even sweeter, because I know it's not automatic that things just turn out. It's not like going to the grocery store where there's always going to be the cabbage on the shelf, or as we saw in 2020, maybe not always. But it's something where there's possibility of failure, but then there's possibility of very sweet success. Look at this. This chard has been here for years. We harvest off of it over and over and over again. I think that you should take the leap and try to grow a garden. I'm here for it. I'm here to walk you through. I have videos of starting seeds of different things we've grown, and I'm gonna keep putting stuff out there because I would love to see people take a risk, because you know, you might fail. In fact, I can guarantee you that you will fail. In some way you will fail, but I can also guarantee in some way you will succeed. I guarantee it. It might be this chard, just like mine. And the sheer beauty of the garden is enough reason to grow a garden, in my opinion. Well, just even getting my time outside, it was such a beautiful time, beautiful day. I love to share this stuff with you. I hope that you'll consider joining me this year, and we're going to get further and further into this gardening journey, and hopefully you step out and grow something you've never grown before, and you grow something that you would use and enjoy and that you would love. That's the best way to get started with gardening in January. Start dreaming. I'll talk to you soon. Grow a garden.